power in their house? Up. How many people? Keep the hand up. Some. If your parents have electricity in their house, keep your hand up. The rest put your hand up. Very good. Next question. If your grandparents have electricity in their house, keep your hand up. All right. So, I'm seeing, let's see, the ones, which county?
Bro, you are the director here.
Vihiga,
Take charge.
Kiambu, Machakos, Meru, Tharaka-Nithi, Trans Nzoia, Tana River, Uasin Gishu, Nyeri, Murang'a. Good. So I'm going to be, thank you, can keep your hands down. I'm going to be presenting to you some information, both about energy today and also opportunities or things you think about as youth, as you're going to go back and think about not just energy, but also energy for agriculture, but other things that happen. A quick introduction. I work for an organization called GOGLA. Hello. Are we moving? Are we not moving? Shall I point this way or I point that way? Okay. All right. Good. So GOGLA, we're an industry association based out of Amsterdam. And it's a global organization. And we work on this issue of energy access. Just a quick poll to see if you guys are up to, what is the energy access number for Kenya today? How many people in Kenya, or percentage, who knows? Kenya statistics, what's energy access number? Introduce yourself and what's the number? Huh? How many? 54%. That's an interesting number. Any other number? 60? 60%. Okay. So the number is actually closer to what he says. So the number that you see in Kenya today is 75–76% energy access in Kenya today. But if you ask the question, what is the reach of the national grid, Kenya Power, it is 54%. Which means, do the reverse, how many people, what percent of Kenyans don't have access to electricity today? 40? 46. Think about it, we're in Kenya in the 21st century, where everybody in the room is living with electricity. From the poll, I think everybody says you have electricity. But 46%, which means ukitoka leo, uende barabarani, 1 out of 2 people does not have access to electricity. Right? This is the issue that we are working on, which is essentially to do what we can do to enable sustainable businesses and accelerate energy access. And I think I want to, before I go here, I just also want to just check. Why do you think energy is important today? Energy, electricity, why do you think it's important? Yes, sir. Do you have a hand so that we can pick the answers? Why do you think electricity is important or energy access?
Electricity in Kenya is really important because it's working hand in hand with other features like factors like security. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this security is also facilitating a 24-hour economy, which is also promoting economic status. And this is fueling growth in both security and also the industrial sectors in our country.
Kweli? What else? And I want us to take it to mashinani. Please go ahead.
It's having energy will also help the SDG, the sustainable goal of eradicating poverty. At least we'll have to do away with the stoves that we are using back, which cause air pollution and may kill a lot of children.
Really? I saw some other hands there.
Also, energy today is being used to carry out farm activities, so it is taking away the demand opportunities. Not that much efficient.
Thank you. And then I'll take the stream of that gentleman and then the lady from Kilifi and then Bungoma. It's right in front of you. Madam.
Being in the 21st century, I feel like everything has been taken to, it has been taken to electronic way. So most of the operations are happening online. So we need electricity because even if you're going to the bank, you want to operate your machines, wherever you are, you need energy or electricity to operate in a daily life.
Clearly. Last gentleman, go ahead.
Energy access is important because it directly correlates with the quality of life. If you compare societies or communities without electricity to those with electricity, there is a clear difference in terms of the quality of life, the activities they engage in, and the income that they make.
Very good. So, nikuulize swali, I want to ask everybody, who was in high school when COVID happened? Anybody? Who was in high school when COVID happened? Just put your hand up. COVID was 2020, 2021, 2020. It's not who was in high school, right? I'm going to ask any of you, how long was school closed? How long was school closed? Speak to me. 1 year, right? Do you remember what happened? What happened to school? Zilienda where? Online. Let me ask, just in case. Where were you living, the gentleman? You in Kericho? Were you able to do online schooling? No? Where were you? Were you able to do online schooling? The gentleman who said you were in high school also? Were you able to do online schooling? You are, that's one. There's somebody at the back. You're not able to do online schooling. So, again, think about it. 1 year schools were closed. The country moved to online education, but of the 4 I've just asked, 3 out of 4, 75%, were not able to do online schooling. A lot of it, yes, is do you have access to a computer? Do you have access to these things? But if you don't have energy, how do you do that, right? And there's so many things that you can also ask around questions for whether it's if you fall sick at night and your healthcare facility doesn't have. So just to give you a picture on this, and please look at your county. Today, the energy access picture in Kenya is around 75%, upper chini, so in 2024 from the last census. But if you look at the majority of Kenya, right? Turkana, energy access is 15%, which means 85% of people who are Kenyans living in Turkana County do not have access to electricity. And you can look at the broader picture, right? What's the story for your county? Right? What's the story for your county? I think this is super important for us to understand. And secondly, I want you to take a look at this. Here, this is the map of where the national grid is. This part of Kenya. Look at the rest of Kenya. And many of you, these are the communities you're living in. So whether you're going to school, whether you have to go and run your business, whether you have to do the normal things that in Nairobi you will take for granted, morning, you want to charge your phone. There are people today, and I know some of them, that when they want to charge their phone today, have to think about niende kwa duka ni charge simu yangu. Sawa?
Yeah.
That's where the grid is not. And this conversation around energy and energy access and what do you need to do to support everything else, and we'll go into these details, is important. So what you're seeing here on this right side is some of the things now the off-grid energy industry is doing between what we call solar home systems as well as mini grids, are looking at how we can provide energy across the rest of the country, right? So please again think about what's the community you're coming from. This is how, if you look around you, I know today, sometimes you will drive. I know I drive to Bomet. And as I drive to Bomet, especially at night, you're going through Narok, you're going through some of these places, and you see lights all over. But sometimes we think it's Kenya Power. The truth is it's not. It's the work that we are all doing to make sure how else can you provide energy in a different manner. So this is the question that I want to challenge you, and now we're going to the details. So globally, and this is the work we're doing, we know that there's about 685 million people living without energy access. Most of them live where? In Africa, where we are. And we also talk about climate change. I think most of you are seeing the droughts, you're seeing too much rain 1 minute, floods, the next minute no rain. You're seeing very high temperatures, you're seeing very low temperatures, we've seen ice and snow sometimes, you see pictures online in Nauru and places like that. All this is climate change. And unfortunately, what we see is the people who are faced with climate and climate change happen to actually live in the same places that they don't have energy access. Compare. This is international statistics. The most people who are climate vulnerable happen to also live in the same places they have without energy. Why is this important? If you're in Europe today, or in places that have energy access, if the rain comes, if it is too hot, you have air conditioning. If you need to farm your crops and the rain has failed, you pump your water. They have all these things that energy is enabling, but when you don't have energy, you can't deal with it. Right? So this is why we keep seeing the things that happen. And this is the question, and now I'm coming to some of the important things attached to where the communities you're working, and then I'll come to what I believe are the opportunities. One, when we look, not just in Kenya, but across sub-Saharan Africa, in agriculture today, the statistics are between 30 to 45% of food produced goes to waste. So mkulima amefanya kazi yake, amevuna, amedone everything, but number one, at the farm gate, delayed, it goes bad. Number two, it is sent to the market. In the market, you see all our markets and you're seeing heaps of rotting vegetables, you're seeing all these wasted produce, all of it is going to waste, right? And yet we're also dealing with hunger at the same time. We're constantly seeing calls for people who are in communities who are crops or their animals are dying. This is the challenge we're facing. But we know if we provide energy and energy access, we can look at how do we reduce reliance on rain-fed agriculture. How do we make sure that if you have milk or you've got other things that need to be preserved, that you have access to cooling and cooling solutions, which are all powered by energy. Without energy, you cannot do anything. How do we also push for more agro-processing, drying and keeping those vegetables or those produce processed closer to them? That's just in agriculture. So we know that we can do a lot to do improve food and food security, particularly in these communities that also happen to be the poorest across the country. I want to go to industry and enterprise and industry. Statistics, remember, we keep saying, it's about the hustler, right? And the hustler, meaning not just youth, but most Kenyans are by nature hustlers because that's the way our economy is. And with respect to that, how do you support enterprise, right? How long will you see or have people, for example, rely on, mtu anasukuma mkokoteni. That's what they have to do. I know today you'll be hearing from, after this, one of the companies are looking at some of these mobility solutions, but this is some of the things. If you've got small enterprise and they have milk, or they have drugs, or they go to other places that they need to keep those things cold, or they need to be able to run a TV, or to power a fridge, or a hair salon. Ladies, we go to hair salons, right? Regardless of where you live. How do you power those? How do you enable them? We know with energy, and we provide energy, we can also power all these enterprises. We go to health and sanitation. The statistics are in sub-Saharan Africa, there are over 700,000 health facilities without energy. I know in my county in Bomet, there are parts of Bomet where, yes, the health center does not have a computer, does not have a fridge, does not have a lab, because the reliable energy to power those things is not there. Unaenda unaona clinical officer, unapewa, unatibiwa, unatoka. And I know it's not just that county. It's in many of our counties too. So how do we provide for healthcare and healthcare facilities? So we think about how do we improve health outcomes, access to clean water, really enabled by healthcare and what we want to do. In education, I remember we've just talked about what happened during COVID, but you will still see, I think, was it last year or the year before, I was seeing an article of a child in Mombasa town. But because you're in a slum, you're doing your homework under a street light. Right? How is that child going to be able to compete when mwenye yako Nairobi, mwenye yako Kericho, mwenye yako Bomet, mwenye yako Kisumu, that goes home and is able to do their homework? Right? If CBC mnaenda unaambiwa go and research, mtoto wako wa mshanani anaenda anachinja kuku, huyu mwingine how will they compete in the 21st century? And this is something we have to challenge ourselves as a society. So the thing is, how can we equip these vulnerable communities to live in this 21st century that we've discussed and that we've talked about, which is you need energy to participate, not just where you farm or how you farm, the crops you produce, how you go to school, where you get your healthcare, where you do a business. How do we help empower these communities wherever they are, and wherever you are, and whether you live, and where it's a community, the people you work with, it's where your uncles, your aunties, you'll be living to be able to participate in the 21st century. And it's also in the face of climate change, how do we build resilience around that? So, and it's radios, it's TVs, it's these normal things. I want to move to the end. So, this now speaks to the work that we are doing and the opportunity that we wanted to at least share with you, that these are some of the things that you can be doing or thinking about, whether as employment or whether as enterprise. When you think about the energy, and particularly our industry, the off-grid solar industry, it's many of these things. For farming, it is solar water pumping. If you're keeping chickens and chicks have to be, in the first 7 days, need to get light and warmth. And if you don't have that, it is solar. Right? If you need to do fishing, for those in the, particularly in fishing communities, before they used to go out with kerosene lights at night. Now they no longer need to do that. Kerosene is very dangerous. It can burn the boats. You can pour and you're polluting the lakes or the water bodies, but you can do that at night. And then when you bring that fish in, it doesn't have to be sold immediately. You can keep it cold using what is available. It's the shops that are able to run. It's the restaurants that we're able to power. It's, Saturday night, kila mtu anataka ku watch ball. It's how are you able to allow those off-grid communities to be able to run those. And it's all these things. So what we see today and the opportunity that I want to make you aware of is across whatever you're doing in the economy, there's really an opportunity to think about is there work either I can do directly or indirectly to support whatever is the outcome or whatever you're trying to achieve, be it in agriculture, commercial, industrial, social services, and across the environment, that you can really help think about what can I do and what's the opportunity to leverage what's available through the solar industry today that you can work on. So what are the current opportunities that are available in the sector? Some are really direct, employment, distributors, working directly jobs or being a distributor or a retailer. Some of it is indirect if you get training as an installer. If you go, at the end of it, we know it's important for waste management, bring some of the products at the end of life back and do some of the waste management and handling, technical support and maintenance, because once you put these things there, nobody wants anybody to have imeharibika and hakuna mtu anaweza kurepair. This is something we're trying to do as an industry. Build up and train people who can be able to say, imeharibika, unakuja, una service, una repair, una support. Because that's what's important. Nimefika a stage where I want to see, can I take maybe some questions? Tumeongea sana. Muko? Hello, tuko? Muko, sawa. Can I take any questions or comments or observations? Nimesema ukweli? Any farmers? Farmers? Anybody farmer? Maybe can I hear from one of you? Is this true? Have you dealt with solar products and is this true? The gentleman from Kiambu, what do you farm? Can we get the mic, please?
Okay, thank you. Most of the time I do farm vegetables, and one of the challenges that we had before, water shortage, so we had to dig a well, and for us to pump water from the well, we had to use solar pumps instead of electric ones. Yeah.
Can I ask where you got the pump from?
Okay, we got from local dealers in Nairobi. I can't specifically remember the company. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Hapa mbele tafadhali.
Hello. It's just a concern. I think what most of farmers suffer from is, for example, when farmers are doing harvesting, I get that there's a time where I stay, there's a time 2 kgs of tomatoes goes as 20 bob. And there's a time 2 kgs of tomato goes as 200. The same tomato, but different time. So there's just this project we are working on where we wanted to leverage the use of solar so that a farmer cannot lose much during the harvest. So how do you as Gogla, how do you support such innovations?
It's a very good question. So I'll tell you what we've seen in there's some interesting work I saw in India, where this issue of high peaks, a lot of product in the market, and the prices go down, especially if the farmer is hostage to brokers at the gate. They leave your vegetables and go somewhere else. So the question was 2 things. One, when you're dependent on rain, everybody plants at the same time. So is there a way as a farmer cooperative unit to look at staggering out and changing the production, but which means you need to have access to it. Then the second one is, can you put together cold rooms so that the farmers can harvest at a slightly earlier stage before it's fully ripe, and you store your produce. Because if you can even store for 1 month, 3-4 weeks, and the peak goes away, the price begins to change. So these are some of the things we are beginning to see where we're encouraging farmer producer groups to be able to get a large container storage together. And then if you organize yourselves and you have a corn group, that means you bring your farmers to store those crops at that time, the tomatoes, and then you're not hostage to that. Then the third thing that we've also seen using solar is what is called solar drying. So you can also take during a peak season, you put your tomatoes in a solar dryer, you dry the tomatoes, and then now you sell it as a value-added product. Because I'm sure all of us have seen sun-dried tomatoes in some places, right? And it's small, but it's quite expensive. If you think about what you're paying per tomato, it's a very high whatever. So those are the 3 areas that we've seen. The question and the challenge, especially to be able to do it everywhere, needs entrepreneurs, needs people who will put that together. And then be able to be the place that you can provide that support, either through as a business, you run it as a profit business, or as a cooperative or whatever. But those are the 3 things we've seen. Does that help answer the question? Okay. I was asking on the farmers, anybody else? Uko Misho?
Yes, thank you. So my question is specifically on dealers who maybe sell your merchandise. I'm from North Rift and particularly Trans-Nzoia. The most common products I see from Google and even such like organizations are directly to do with lighting, products like Sun Kings or televisions that are Aqua televisions. But important things now, like to me personally as a farmer, is the things to do maybe with the things that you have mentioned, like solar dryers and solar pumps. Basically, I've only seen it once, and it's not in a shop or located in any dealer anywhere. So I'd like you to direct us, maybe from that region, are there any specific dealers over the same? And how accessible is it? Can local farmers, for example, us youths, who are 75% of the population, but do not have maybe financial muscle, how are like such like organizations planning to ensure that we can get these essentials in a favorable price? Thank you.
Good question. And I hope the SMACS team is taking notes on that, because it's easy to talk to Meongea, but how do you to do something with it? This is probably a very good partnership opportunity between our industry, SMACS, to also link, to look at who are the retailers or distributors in the different counties for these products. And if there is not, but there's a camp, and one of you wants to say, I am interested in covering this region, does it become a business or an enterprise, either employment, business, or other opportunity for you? But it is true, particularly outside lighting, today they are not broadly available except in the major urban centers. As you go farther away, they are not as available. And this is something which is also quite interesting, why I wanted to come and talk to you. So, SMACS, there's enough of you here, so I'm sure you're not here. Swali ingine, comment? Yes, sir. I can hear, but they may not hear your question, so it's good so that everybody hears.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My question was about I'm a farmer, and they have been using fossil fuel kind of generators to pump water into the farm. So maybe from after this, at least got the direction of going for the sustainability, sustainable, or the renewable energy usage. So most farmers, maybe as my perspective, find that most of these fossil fuel powers, they're fast and even the portability, you can move them around to your farm and to your projects, as opposed maybe to the solar ones. We had a project that have been done by SunCulture, where they could come up with the whole system, the solar, the pump and everything. But we found that maybe where I'm doing the farming is not at my home, I have to move with it. So moving around the whole system is something that is not practically possible to do this. So I found that I ought to go for the generator to use the fossil fuel because of that portability, and there's no that much installation of the system. So even another things about the pricing, we find that most of these solar power, they have the price. We find that it's okay. You buy once, but you find maybe it's 150,000, and I'm a small scale farmer. I ought to go for a 20,000 generator pump, even if I will be buying the fuel. For me, I see it is convenient for me. So maybe on as an expert on your side, how can we try to mitigate this? Because it's a block for us to access now the solar pumps. Maybe on the next, maybe the innovation of the plants that you can aid these small farmers also to benefit and also promote the use of solar pumps.
Wow, I'm really, you know the industry quite well. This is really good. I think one of there are several things that at least we are seeing. That when you use different technologies, you also have to change. There are some habits that you also need to change, right? So, for example, today, if I'm on Kenya Power, right, you don't really think about energy and energy efficiency. You should, but most people don't. You plug whatever you want, and you use power. And for 1 hour, 2 hours, you leave something running overnight, you're never thinking about that. But when you're using solar, and where you're relying on the battery, energy efficiency has to become very important. So that's number one. So yes, in terms of the petrol versus a solar battery, your habits have to change. But secondly, one of the beautiful things we are seeing is today, if you let us, or you look at what's available, you may have seen, I'll give you some names. Have you seen a future pump? There are some pumps that have a round thing that go like this. They're usually green. Those are quite portable. Number two, for if you've got a well and you want to be able to pump, like the SunCulture, you can actually leave your panel, either to do two things. There's two ways they're handling it. One is you can go with the panel and just the pump. Don't need any, and then the panel will directly run the pump, and both are very portable. I wish I could show you pictures when they were here. Or number two, just go with the battery and the pump, and you pump. So you don't need to take the whole installation. So you cannot push and have somebody, even if it's 50,000 or 20, you cannot push and have somebody, even if it's 50,000 or 20,000, and you buy a pump, and in 3 months, it's not working. Right? True or not true? It's not right. We have to make sure that people have products that work, and for the time that's supposed to work. How am I doing on time? I'm not sure what the time is. I was coming to, as I come to the end and I'm still here and I'll leave it open, I know particularly everything you're doing, and I really want to encourage you to think about not just in farming, but everything that happens in your community, whether you're in agriculture. And in agriculture, whether you're at the farm, whether you want to process, whether you're in the sales side, if you're like a small business, be it a bar, a shop, a hair salon, processing, whatever it is, whether you're in education, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in transport, and I think you'll be hearing this after this, there is definitely an opportunity to think about how do we provide economic opportunities entrepreneurship, or improving what people are doing wherever they are by adopting smart, climate-smart energy solutions. We as an industry are here, and I hope that I've opened your mind a little bit. I look forward to working with SMACHS to see what we can do so that it's not just a lecture and a talk that I've been given, but how do we put this information to you and then say, oh, there's this company that is selling pumps. They want a retailer, they want a distributor, they want somebody to be an agent, they want somebody to install or to support them. And then you say, either me or my friend is interested in doing this. Can I say thank you? Unless you have a question for me. Yes, sir. The gentleman from Laikipia.
Okay, mine is not a question, but to emphasize on what you are saying. We got this experience, like in Laikipia, the challenge that we face most is the differences between wild animals where they come to the farms, like elephants, and destroy everything. Now the government had improvised an electric fence so that animals will not cross to the farmers' farms. Unfortunately, power went down, so the elephants, I don't know how they managed. They got to the other side of the farm, and we had planted about half an acre of cabbages. And you know, elephants, they just did what they do best. They destroyed everything. Then after that, we went for benchmarking, and we found a person who advised us on the use of solars. The government, rather than using the solars, the electricity fence, they opted to use solars. After installing the solars, the government installing the solars, we also installed the solar to pump water and to also light the house. And from that time, after installation of the solars to pump water and the installation of solars to prevent the wild animals getting into the farmer's farm, the produce, if you try to compare what was previously produced and what we are producing right now, there are two things. It's like heaven and earth. The comparison the produce has greatly increased. So that's kudos to the solar sector, and thank you.
Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you. The gentleman from Izak, Nyandaro.
I'm Joseph from Nyandaro County. Mine is not a question, it is just a comment. We are very grateful for the opportunity through this topic of sustainable energy. And I have two things about solar, because people do underestimate solar energy. There is a research that is saying that if we harvest the solar energy for 1.5 hours, the 8 billion of us use that energy for free for 1 year. I was going through another research sometimes back of an airplane that was invented using solar energy, which was invented in around 2016. It started its journey around May 2015, and it ended its journey around July 2016 in a place known as Abu Dhabi. This airplane was purely using solar, and it went for around 25,000 miles. So it means that although it took a lot of time, it means that if we upgrade our technology, solar energy might be used even in airplanes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Francis from Baringo County. I have a question. Does COCLA collaborate with local governments or NGOs in Kenya to provide or to enhance grid solar adoption?
I think the answer is yes. For example, even now we are working with the parliamentary facilities for a conference happening in Brazil next week. We really talk about energy access, particularly for those communities. So we do work, and this is something we have to talking about how we can do that. Okay? Yes, sir. I'll be loud. I can raise my voice, I think.
Well, my name is Mohammed Musa from Gaza. Nice to hear that Google is in here. We are having a solar system for our farm. It's a cooperative farm in Gaza for the last 3 years, which was donated by USAID LMS project, livestock marketing, because we are producing the highest amount of fodder in northeastern at that time, but due to the flood that happened the other time, destroyed it. And currently we have almost 400 acres, which is clear and fenced. And personally, I got 200 acres, which I got a project to distribute pili. But due to lack of water, and I couldn't manage, and the system is there, but due to the flood and the water and the sun that goes in the solar, it's not working. So in case of any support from Ogla, I will appreciate. And I would really like to be supported because the project is still there, but we are looking anybody who can assist us to water.
Thank you. Maybe you can hear me? Huh? I want to maybe mention two things which is super important. Have you, as an association and an industry, there are times you hear solar does not work, right? And what we are really talking to the government, but also talking to ourselves, and it's also part of this conversation, is one, we have to push that the government adopts standards so that not everything, if it's bad, it should not be being sold in Kenya, right? Because the same way for everything, unaweza pata gari nzuri, unaweza pata gari mbovu. You can find good bread, you can find bad bread. You can find good oil, you can find bad oil. But the people who are responsible to make sure that bad products are out of the government, out of the country's market is the government. So we really encourage, push for good products to be good standards. Number two, to the industry in this conversation is, if a product is sold, if you're in Wajir, if you're in Garissa, if you're in Turkana, and you have solar pump, or you have a solar pump, a solar panel, a solar mill, whatever it is, can we make sure that there is somebody in the community that knows how to repair it? Because every product needs to be maintained. And this is why I'm saying, can you ask, or can we work with you so that you get trained on how to maintain and how to support them so that everything is repaired or repairable. Today, if you have a phone, and wherever you are in Kenya, ikiharibika, you will go to somebody who will repair the phone. True or not true? If you have a boda piki, no matter where you are, hata kama it's under a shed, There is somebody who's changing that tire, somebody who's doing that oil, because wherever you are, that picky will be maintained. True or not true? But it's taken a lot of, you need technicians, you need people, the parts available. So we as an industry need to work with you and work with the community so that we train and capacity build, that these things, even if they are good, are able to be supported. You should not need to bring it all the way to Nairobi or from where to Turkana to Kitale or to Nakuru for it to be maintained. That will not work. Then the third one is, and this goes to the models that we think, depending on just donor projects, is not sustainable. We need to create an ecosystem where you've got entrepreneurs, people doing business that supports it, because the donor project will start and stop. At the end of it, what? You wait for the next donor project, it's not sustainable. So in regards to even your project, is how do we build your supplier or the person to be able to come afterwards? The flood has come and gone, the system should be able to get back. It's not destroyed. Number two, how do we make sure that there's economics around it? And then also access to finance and everything else to sustain it. This is a big question that, again, I would love to work with SMACHS to look at how we put this ecosystem around you so that we have a long-term sustainable ecosystem that works. It's not driven by a donor project or you come and go, but in the long run, for forever, we have an ecosystem that works. Right? But we can also follow up on that. Yes, madam. Finally, some ladies. I'm not going to exclude. Yes, madam.
Yeah. Is it? Can I have it? Let me help you.
I have a few. So one concern is that I heard that solar energy, if it's in excess, it can be stored in batteries. If you can clarify for me if that is actually true. And then, we are from different areas, different counties with different climatic conditions. And an alternative for no electricity is usually solar. But then you find that, for example, I come from Kajiado. Kajiado, there is a lot of sunlight and a lot of heat. So putting solar panels in Kajiado is a good alternative. But what about areas where, let me call them wetlands, whereby there is more rain than sun? Is solar also an alternative for them? Which links my other and my last question. Solar, is it generated, or does it get its, the energy from direct sunlight or just general heat? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Interesting question. Maybe let me give you. I'm a policy person. I talk a lot, but I'm not a technical. I'm not an engineer. But maybe let me give all of us a slight education on, or just an expansion when we think about energy, right? We as Kenya, and also within our communities, also need to look at energy holistically, right? In the different forms of energy. Solar and electricity is only one form of energy, right? One of the big uses of energy is in cooking. And you don't use electricity, or you don't have to use it as electricity. Biogas and biomass, clean briquettes and all that is one channel that we are pushing as part of climate smart ways for our energy needs. Secondly, we've also got, particularly when we talk about solar and what you're using the solar for. If you had some of the examples, the solar to be used for drying, whether it is vegetables, whether it is fish, whether it is all that. There it is essentially solar directly to generate heat without batteries, without the electricity part. That's one way we can use it. Now, the other thing that we're seeing, particularly for solar, for cooling is actually using the solar without batteries to directly generate ice. And that ice is being used, it's now what you call thermal energy, cool as stored as ice, and that is being used to provide cooling at night when there's no solar. Then the last one is just where you store the solar in batteries, particularly for lighting where you want to use it at night. And then we are seeing now another way where you use directly from solar, particularly for irrigation, where you don't need to irrigate at night. Take the solar, connect it directly to a pump or directly to a solar mill, and run that equipment without the need of the battery. This is something we have available. We don't need to really bother about it, that it's finding the most optimum way for the use that you have. But the beauty is we are on the equator. Whether you're in Highlands, in Meru, or in Molo, or you're in Kajiado, you're in Mombasa, generally solar will work here. At a technical level, you just might need a few more panels than in one place as the other, but solar will generally work right? But the specific application, this is something that you probably need to work with the person who's providing that system. And whether you need batteries, whether you can do without batteries, what size, how much, all of that is dependent. Okay. Again, the opportunities are large. Please, let's explore. All right? Before I come to the gentleman, I'd really love another lady. Ladies? Yes, madam, from Meru.
I have it.
Okay.
I have a business idea. In my work.
Finally, yes.
To start a chips business.
Chips?
Yeah. Can I run the dryers, deep fryers, sorry, using solar energy to save on the cost of electricity?
Yes, but today I would probably not do it because fryers are extremely energy intensive. You could do it, but in terms of there's the number of panels that you use to be able to run that fryer is probably not very efficient right now. Because this is, when you use solar energy and energy efficiency is super important, fryers are not energy efficient. Microwaves are not energy efficient. Right? So you might have a fridge which is energy efficient, but some of those are not very energy efficient. Okay? And then I know I'm over time, so maybe we can take the last two, the gentleman there and then the gentleman here at the front. The gentleman from Siaya. Maybe just shout. Huh?
This idea. I'm coming in a lake region, and the economic activity that we do there, one mainly is fish caging and ponds. So normally I see these fish traders, they have challenges. After selling, maybe during the evening, like you find some people, preservation is like most of the fish in a big amount. So if you can come to say it will be better, so that we work together.
Essentially cooling the fish, so and preserving it.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, I would even say I wish they would change. If you leave the fish out the whole day, jioni is when you're trying to store it. You're allowing deterioration. If we could get into the habit, put it into the fridge, just have the samples inside from the fridge, would be good. Then the last gentleman here at the front from Nigeria, Margaret.
So my question is, you realize solar energy is one of the clean energies that we usually forget for. now we will be engaging the farmers. So in terms of cost, assuming now we have the community, how can you maybe drive, because maybe in the future we will partner, so how can we drive the agenda that solar energy is cheap as compared to electricity? Because there was an instance, my friend was buying a farm, kajenga nyumba, and then he was asking, like we were discussing about him installing a solar and electricity. So we come to a point that we realize in terms of economies of scale, solar energy sometimes is biased towards large economies of scale. So in terms of cost, because when we were discussing with them, when you use, when you install a solar, the amount that you buy that solar, and then you equivalent, you buy units of electricity. It can the units of electricity, like it's a lot, and it can cost for many years. So I wanted you to elaborate in terms of cost versus, because of course it's reliable, cost versus reliability. Thank you.
Good question. I think today, particularly if you're on the grid, people moving from the grid to solar is driven by two things. One is the blackouts are not good, or the cost of power is too high. Kenya's cost of power is pretty high. So those are, but this is over time. But I also want to bring you back to, it's not a moving competition between the grid and the off-grid. If you go back to the map I showed you, most of landmass Kenya don't have an option. 54% on the grid, the other 46% don't have an option. So we've been pushing, and I think Kenya has adopted what we call an integrated energy plan, which is saying we need to provide energy to everybody in the least cost manner. It is not grid versus non-grid, whatever. So we don't look at it as a competition. It's not. It's if you've got access to the grid, get on the grid. If you don't have access to the grid, then what? From a port and industry, we are pushing several things. Today, if you to go and ask what is the true cost to get a grid connection, it's about 100,000 shillings. But it's currently subsidized by the government. That's why you're able to pay the 5, the 15, 35,000. It's currently subsidized. But however, if you're not on the grid, unfortunately today, most of the time you're by yourself. So we're really pushing for several things. One is if the government can lift taxes on energy access solutions. It's been there, but it keeps coming back, and we keep having this fight that don't tax solar. Because if you do, you're directly taxing the energy solution for those who don't have energy, which is driving the cost. Taxes will be, between VAT and the import duties can go up to 45%, which will drive up the cost. The second part that we're pushing is, can we look at how do we subsidize this directly, so that whether it's a farmer needs a pump, you're subsidizing fertilizer, you're subsidizing other things, can you subsidize directly the cost of production? We don't have some of these answers yet, but it's an effort that the industry is pushing, and I invite all of you to join that conversation. Okay? I know I am over. Am I allowed to take the gentleman from Tarakaniti? I guess I will, since I still have the mic. Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, I'm Chris Kimadi from the Canadian. I know, first of all, it's a congratulation because you have really enlightened us on the area of cooperation, and maybe we can also do some business. But the question is, we know that there is these counties in Kenya, as I've seen in the map that you have provided. Kenya, those arid and semi-arid counties, the land there is arable. We can do farming there. What we lack is water. Our brothers and sisters from those areas, not that they are less human beings, they can do farming, they can integrate farming and other pastoral activities. But what they lack is water. You as a policymaker, I know government is the one. I know you sit as an organization. I know you are involved in government policy making and all that. So I would suggest that when you're having such engagements, let us, because you can see the people, the county ambassadors present here this afternoon, they represent thousands and thousands of young people from their counties. So what they are, and they have got energy. What they are needed is just kaboost kidogo tu, uone ile samaki inatoka huko Nordistan. Si lazima ng'ombe itoke Nordistan. Hata samaki inafanya nini? It is just kaboost kidogo tu. So when you're engaging other stakeholder in government, maybe request, please pass this information. We want to see our country doing well in terms of agriculture. We don't want to depend on getting relief food throughout the year, because once you are given things, then you become dormant. Thank you.
I could not agree with you more. In fact, as an industry, it's one of the things we're really trying to talk to the members of parliament, the county governments from those regions, because sometimes what gets lost is you will be told we took on a steamer, but it's not the story for everybody, right? We can say we did last mile school electrification, all the primary schools. But you tell me, again, go back to that map. Primary schools where? Is it there are no primary schools in the other parts of the country that don't have the grid? Or there's no healthcare facility? Or there's no people living there? So I think we do need to do a lot more to make sure that we include those communities, and not just those, and this is also the interesting thing. If you look at the high energy, I'm from Bomet, right? Which is in Nakuru County, one of the high energy access counties. I don't have electricity. I got a quote to bring electricity, 5 million, in Molo. So sometimes it is important to raise our voice, speak, and make sure that in the big picture we are not getting lost and the people who are left behind. So yes, I agree with you. Okay? Let me say thank you very much. I would like to also suggest and commit that we'll follow up with SMACHS so that we don't just talk for an hour, 20, and there was nothing, but make sure that we package it and say, what does this mean? How can we work together? And that it's communicated. And hopefully, if we meet a year from now, we can be able to say, Apple, Saisi, we've got a project, we've got a business, we've got communities, or we are doing something substantive. And not just you, but as ambassadors, we push this to some of the people that you're working with and your colleagues. Thank you very much, and I will give it back to the organizers. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for the informative session. That was not around, but I'm sure it was informative, right? Did you learn? Yes. Okay. So I know. We have another session under the sustainable energy. We were supposed to do 30 minutes, but you'll allow us to do 2 hours until 4. But before then, do we need a break or an icebreaker? Yes. What works? A break? Okay. So I think we can have a 10-minute break, and then I will be back at 30, then we can proceed. At 35, then we can proceed with the session for 5 minutes, and we'll be done by 4 p.m. for our team building activity. Sawa. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much.